I now invite the forum to hold a setting the stage discussion on SDG implementation at the halftime. What will it take to keep the SDG promise? I am pleased to welcome the distinguished panelists and invite them to assume their seats on the podium. The panelists are Her Excellency Mia Amor Mottley, Prime Minister of Barbados and co-chair of the Sustainable Development Goals Advocates Group. Mr. Ajay Banga, President of the World Bank Group, and Ms. Carolinea Cosse, Mayor of Montevideo. Furthermore, I am pleased to welcome the moderator, Ms. Gillian Tett of the Financial Times. Following the setting the stage segment, we will hear a musical performance by Senegalese musician Mr. Baba Mal, UN Goodwill Ambassador for the UN Convention to Combat Desertification. I now invite Ms. Tett to conduct the discussion.
Well, thank you very much indeed, President, for convening this. And on behalf of the Financial Times, I am delighted to be here for this very important meeting. Now, if the SDGs were a game of soccer or football, which is something that unites the world, a love of soccer, right now at halftime, we would all be feeling pretty depressed. Because as we've heard earlier, only 15% of the goals have been met, and that is not a good record. But the great thing about soccer is that it can always change in the second half. So what today is all about is trying to see whether we can actually find ways to change the game in the second half. Let's hope we can, otherwise the crowd are going to truly start booing. So we have an amazing combination of people here to talk about this. We are short of time, so we are going to be very focused and brief. But I'd like to start with you, Mia Mottley. One of the key elements of changing the game is getting the finance needed to actually implement the SDGs. You have been a tireless thorn in the side of the rich countries and the international financial architecture calling for change. What, in your view, would count as success from this week in terms of getting the international financial architecture changed?
I think we have to, first of all, thank you for having us here. I think we have to recognize that the calls for international reform of the financial system really are not just about governance, but they're for us about longer money, cheaper money, and being able to use it for the purposes for which we need to reduce all of our inequalities and to achieve the elements of the SDGs. Ajay is better placed to speak to it, but I'm hoping that we can have a joint effort between the World Bank, the IMF in particular, and the UN to be able to bring to the table the credit rating agencies and the markets, because regrettably we value short-term lending, but do not understand that if countries are going to invest in education and healthcare, they need 30 and 40-year money in order to be able to do so. Our situation has been compounded by the pandemic, and therefore that long-term money is critical. Secondly, we need mission-oriented lending. Professor Mazzucato has been making this point, and in fact, in Barbados, we've set 6 missions, recognizing that all of our policies, including the terms and conditions for access to finance, have to reinforce the missions. If we believe that the SDGs are worth attaining, then we need to put a framework in place that allows the MDBs to value the SDGs and to be able to increase the length of time that you can have to repay for these funds. Thirdly, we need to ensure that as we do all of that, that we get countries and individuals to see the SDGs as individual targets. Because it is not only about the money that we access, it is also about the policies, it's also about the change of behavior, it's about the change of attitude. The reason why the Secretary General can speak about there being an abundance of food and people starving is because we choose not to act differently and we choose not to share with one another. So I believe that those 3 points are critical. Let us get the meetings with the credit rating agencies and the markets, and Ajay, I'd be interested in hearing your perspective on it, because you cannot continue to value short-term lending. You cannot continue to have metrics that don't support a move away from per capita GDP that is historic and tells us nothing about the country, while the vulnerability of the country increases exponentially.
Right, well, thank you very much indeed for those strong words. Very briefly, a one-word answer. Are you more encouraged than you were 3 months ago?
I believe that this man has scored a century in his first 100 days. and I say so as one who has been a major critic of the World Bank. I think that the course correction that he has brought has been critical, but I say to him, if we are running fast and the dog behind us is running faster than us, we'll still get bitten. So I hope that he recognizes now that pace and scope are still the order of the day. And in fairness, it's not him. It's us, the countries. He is simply the agent that is going to carry out our wishes. But at the end of the day, I want to make the point that we cannot have SDGs for the benefit of global public goods and not have a mechanism for financing global public goods. And I still believe that the World Bank is the best place to locate the financing of global public goods, but I accept that there may not be enough public money. And to that extent, how do we mobilize money that now goes in non-state actors, most of whose balance sheets, the major multinational corporations have balance sheets that dwarf and miniaturize the majority of countries in this room. So we have to find a way of them contributing to the financing of global public goods. And we also have to find a way of philanthropic capital financing global public goods. They want to do good, but it can't only be what they want, it has to be what the world needs.
Well, thank you. Well, we've had mixed sporting metaphors here.